You may not know much about him unless you follow one of the Italian clubs he has played at, or if you are from his home country of Serbia. This is the story of Adem Ljajic, the Serbian midfielder who has overcome some incredibly shocking obstacles to establish himself as one of the more underrated midfielders in Europe. But before we begin, please hit that subscribe and like buttons and feel free to leave a comment below. Put yourself in this following situation. You are a young European footballer who has shown enough ability, promise and flashes of brilliance to be called the Little Kaka or the Serbian Kaka. You just turned 17 years old and one of the biggest clubs in the world, if not the biggest, come calling on your doorstep to offer you a trial. In the fall of 2008, Manchester United approached both Adem Ljajic and his Partizan Belgrade teammate Zoran Tosic for a trial. By January of the following year, Tosic had completed his paperwork and had officially joined the club, while Ljajic was going to remain with Partizan through the rest of 2009 and join Man United the following year. During 2009, while still playing for Partizan, Ljajic joined Man United's training sessions regularly through most of the year when schedule permitted, and looked like he was on his way to joining the club. Just think about how unreal this must have been for the 17-year-old. Most kids will either be a junior or a senior in high school in America or wrapping up secondary school in the UK, and here he is about to join Man United. However, later that year, much to his dismay, Ljajic learned that Man United had pulled out of the deal. The reason given at first by the club was that they decided to go against the option to buy him because of developmental or financial concerns, that there were other young players already coming through the ranks at the club that presented better options. Soon after that, the club changed its tone, with assistant manager Mike Phelan citing paperwork issues as the roadblock to obtaining the necessary work permit in time for the January transfer. Whatever the real reason may have been, the transfer fell through and the Serbian teenager missed out on his dream move. The teenager took it well, with his Partizan manager Goran Stefanovic giving him credit for handling the situation well and overcoming the psychological shock. Ljajic soon after earned a move to the Italian giants Fiorentina and would go on to enjoy a successful career in the Serie A. When you see the singing of the national anthems before a match, sometimes you see players who are not singing the anthem. Not a big deal, you would think. Well, you would be wrong. To one guy, it mattered. It mattered greatly. Sinisa Mihajlovic was a football legend in his home country of Serbia. He played for the Serbian club Red Star Belgrade and for numerous Italian clubs such as Sampdoria, Lazio and Inter Milan. He was also capped 63 times by Yugoslavia. In May of 2012, Mihajlovic became the first manager of the Serbian national team. One of the first things he did as a manager was to have all his players sign an agreement, a code of conduct of sorts. One of the requirements in there was to actually sing the national anthem before the start of matches. So when Serbia played Spain in a friendly match later that month, Ljajic refused to sing the anthem. Ljajic does not sing the anthem for what he himself calls personal reasons. What did Mihajlovic do? He responded by dropping Ljajic entirely from the squad. Ljajic never played for Mihajlovic again for the national team, and he did not represent Serbia again until almost 2 years later, when the new manager, Ljubinko Drulovic, who did not require his players to sing the anthem, gave him a call-up. The strange irony of all this is that Mihajlovic actually rated Ljajic very highly as a player. Mihajlovic coached Ljajic when he was the manager of Fiorentina prior to becoming the national team manager, and helped develop Ljajic as a player by giving him more responsibility and playing time. Not only that, he also coached him later in Torino, and he also tried to acquire him in his last managerial position in Bologna, even though he was unsuccessful in obtaining him. In other words, Mihajlovic's decision to drop him from the national team was purely for a non-football reason. Now that is sticking to your principles. Have you ever watched a player get substituted in a match and he is clearly not happy about coming out of the game? No competitive player who cares about how he plays and how much he contributes should ever be. All players want to play as much as possible. That's only normal. Well, check out what happened to Ljajic in this astonishing incident. In 2012, Ljajic is by then an established player at Fiorentina, an Italian club with a great history. He was playing in a match for Fiorentina against Novara, and he was being substituted out of the match by the manager, Delio Rossi. As he comes out of the match and heads to the bench, he seems to sarcastically applaud Rossi and give him a thumbs up. To everyone's shock, Rossi responds by pointing at and attacking Ljajic. Other officials in the bench and a few of the players intervened to try to break up the fracas. Even though he later apologized to everyone, this unbelievable scene resulted in Rossi being dismissed by Fiorentina after the game. Ljajic, meanwhile, would go on to play one more season for the Viola. After his 3-year spell in Fiorentina ended, Ljajic moved to play 2 seasons at Roma, followed by a season on loan at Inter Milan, and then 2 seasons under Mihajlovic at Torino. He then played for a few clubs in Turkey and is now back in his home country of Serbia, playing for Novi Pazar. At his best, he is a technically sound and tactically astute player who can do it all as a midfielder. And you wonder how he may have done it at a big club like Man United. We will never know, but it's safe to say that Ljajic made the best of all the things that came his way and has carved out a nice career for himself.